What's up, everybody? Back today with the second video in the green series. This is also a reusable napkin video. In this video, I will be covering how to do a mitered corner. So this technique is one that I don't use often, but you can use it on a myriad of products. Generally anything that you want a nice straight corner on, so like a quilt, a placemat, a napkin, anything of that sort. Here is the example, so you can see it just creates a really nice, clean, flush corner here. And what I love about making mitered corner projects is it makes a nice, thick border edge, which is generally on a top stitched edge. You know, it's top stitched 1/8 from the outside edge, but I like that it's a nice, thick, this is probably about 3/8 to a 1/2 inch border. So I really love that. And the technique, what it does is it creates this corner and it goes up at an angle here. And I don't know, it's just a cool little trick. It's fun to incorporate on other projects. All right, enjoy. I have my piece ready and cut, or cut and ready, whatever, you know, it's here. I even ironed it, so gold star for me. And I dare I say, I almost cut a square, guys. I think this might be a first. I mean, it's not quite square. Even though I used 2 rulers and a rotary cutter, it's still not a square, but this is a win for me. I am just gonna tighten up the edges here since I can obviously tell that it's not it's not a square. So I cut this because I want my napkin to be I think 8 inches is what I intended. Of course I can't remember now. Oh, 9 inches. Okay, so I want my napkin to be 9 inches, so I cut it 10 by 10. I feel like this is pretty okay over there. Wow, guys, just check this out. This is like probably the most perfect square I've ever cut. Oh, look, you can't even see all of it. Just look at that. Oh my gosh, just revel. All right, so I'm gonna flip it over to the back side. This is obviously just one piece. This is single fabric, I believe is what it's called. Sorry, I'm in a goofy mood today, so sorry, not sorry, I guess. But anyway, so 10 by 10 square. I am going to make a mark at 0.75. I'm going to do it in pen, which is a no-no, but that way you guys can see what I'm doing. So 0.75 all the way around. Okay, and then because I marked a 0.75 line, I need to mark 1.5 inches up from each of my edges here. So I'm just gonna make those marks. Now, if you watch mitered corner videos, most places or most videos, most tutorials will tell you to do a 1 inch line. These 1 inch, where I did 0.75, it'll tell you to do 1 inch. And I don't really know why, because to me, that's just using up more of the fabric and it's unnecessary, and maybe I'm missing something. But I practiced before I did this video, which is also a first. You can probably tell by the quality of my videos, but I did this 70 or 0.75 and it's fine. It gave a nice cuff and it folded under well. I'm not entirely sure why. I did run into a little bit of an issue right here where it just kind of didn't want to fold right, but I don't know if that's because of the way that I cut the fabric. You can tell this is not a perfect square. So it's kind of a really wonky pattern to use to make a square anyways. Hard on the eyes, but yeah. So anyways, back to this. So I'm making marks at 1.5, and I'm doing it on all of my corners here. Oh, sorry. on a frame again. So on all of my corners here, so I'm just gonna keep rotating, keep doing it. Okay, so now I've got my little lines, my little marks, my 1.5 inch marks, and I've got my 0.75 inch marks. And the only other mark that I need to make is I'm gonna connect. Let's see if I can show you. So here's my little 1.5 inch mark, and there's my other one. So where they start here on the edges of the fabric, I am going to draw a straight line there. Now, if you are making these yourself, I would suggest not using a pen because this is not going to wash out, but I don't care because I'm keeping these, and that way you can see what I'm doing. But chalk or a friction pen, something along those lines is what you're going to want to use. So making mitered corners is a little bit like a geometry situation. Geometry? I don't know. Some sort of math. But it's kind of fun once it all comes together. Okie dokie. So now we're going to whip out our iron. Just make sure you guys can see. All right, here we go. So the next step is we have to create our first fold. And so our first fold is going to be a 1/4 inch fold all the way around. And this is just going to really be a crease line. And what this is going to do is once we get to the end and we flip our corners back out, that crease line is going to flip under. And that's where we're going to top stitch to give it a nice edge here. So that 1/4 inch is going to flip right under later. Well, that's the plan at least. We'll see what happens. So I am just going to eyeball it, but if you have one of these handy dandy guides, you can set your little blue thing down to 1/4 inch, or what is that? 1/2 centimeter? I don't know. And then you can just lay it and use it as a guide if you want to. So I'm going to first make this 1/4 inch crease. And then while I'm over here, I'm also going to fold up and make the second crease on this blue line that we just drew, this 0.75 line. I'm going to also crease on that line. And a handy dandy tip to know that if it meets up correctly is your 1.5 inch marks here. It should line up when you fold it up. All right, so I'm going to just turn and do the rest of the edges. So now that we have all of our crease lines, what we're going to do is create our folds. So what you're gonna do is you take, back you up a little bit. You take your napkin and you're gonna fold it right sides together. And what you're gonna do is you line up these side edges, and then we're gonna sew right down that line that we drew. And that is the cross line here. So you fold it right sides together, line up your edges. And then you go to, well, actually it's like, so after you fold it like this, then that crease that you made for the 1/4 inch fold, you're going to go ahead and flip it back. There we go. That's what I wanted. So you flip it back like that. These edges should match up nicely, these folded edges. And then now what we're going to do is go to the machine and we're going to stitch just down this straight line. Is it there? Is it this one? It's this one, sorry. So we're going to stitch this line, the one that goes up from the flat folded edge. And then we're going to move all the way around the napkin, doing all 4 corners. Okay, so just a reminder, this drawn line here that starts from this folded edge is what we're sewing. And I'm going to start sewing up here where these 2 edges meet and sew down, being sure to backstitch. So that's what it should look like. And then now we're just going to move over to the next corner here. So I'm just going to remind my fabric where it was pressed by finger pressing it. And then, so we're going to fold right sides together, lining up our raw edges. Flip those little raw edges down. And then again, you should still be a nice even seam here. And then you can see my line is right here. So I'm going to stitch just on that line. Alrighty, so we've got 2 done. Let's move around to the 3rd. So right sides together. See, if you try to like keep your little edges folded over and then, sorry, did that make sense? So folded edges folded over and then you can fold it right sides together. If you can do that, if you have the dexterity to do that, that also works. Instead of folding them right sides together and then flipping these little flaps. But yeah, so as long as you get to this, it doesn't matter how you get there. All right, so 3 out of 4. If you've ever made a little basket, like a fabric basket, it's kind of what it starts to look like. Although a very flat basket, but anyways. So let's try this method again. So I'm just gonna re-finger press my 1/4 seam. And then I'm gonna fold it and try to, so I've got my little edges folded over, and then I'm just gonna lay it right sides together, just like that. The important part when you're doing this step is that your folded edges meet up and that they are nice and flush right here. Alrighty then. We have our little flat basket. I'm sure there's a reason for it, but other videos tell you to cut, so there's like, of course there's cat hair. on mine. Oops. So other videos tell you to cut your excess at an equilateral triangle to reduce bulk, but honestly, I didn't find that big of a problem with it. So I'm just cutting mine off down to about 1/8 of an inch. If you want to be like all the cool kids, they're gonna cut straight out from this bottom seam here, and then you do this straight cut. And that's supposed to cut down on that bulk right there in that corner for whenever you flip it. But honestly, it's such a small amount as it is. I really don't. I feel like cutting it like that, you're flirting with accidentally trimming your stitch line or like cutting through your stitches. And so I'm just cutting it parallel, but you know, you do you. Okay. And so if you have a little pokey thingy, a customer sent me this a while ago, which I thought was really nice. But if you just have like something that you can, a turner, or if you have one of these guys that you, like a pressing bone, or really just anything, a chopstick would probably work great. You're going to flip your little corners right side out and poke out that little corner. And so you can see it's already starting to take shape. As soon as you poke those corners out, it's already starting to lay with that miter. The miter with the border, I think is what I meant to say there. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna hit it with my iron. To really seal the deal here. So with these guys pulled, not pulled because you don't want to stretch the fabric, but you know, you want them to be straight. I'm going to just tuck that 1/4 inch fold in again, if it wants to flip out like mine does. And then I'm just going to iron it. Pretty straightforward. There is a really cool thing that you can do too. If you wanted to have a double-sided napkin, or say you're making placemats, you can line the back with something. So you can take another piece of fabric. Sorry, that's probably a really bad example, but you can take another piece of fabric and lay it inside underneath. And then when you top stitch, you'll have a cool back fabric. I'm thinking about making cork placemats. I mean, the only reason I don't want to is because I would literally never use them. I would make them solely for a YouTube video. But I was thinking about if I made cork placemats, I would do cork on the top, and then on the bottom, it would have a cool design, cotton design underneath. Or it could even be, for a placemat, it could be a non-stick textile so that it's not sliding around on the table. Could really, you know, just make anything you want. So once you get all of your edges pressed, then you just go and top stitch. So as you can see, I top stitched all the way around this side, or wrong side up, and I just top stitched 1/8. You can see I got a little wonky there. We all get a little wonky sometimes, right? Ooh, there's a nice straight edge. We'll use that one. So 1/8 all the way around. And I'm going to do the same thing on this. And then I'm going to have a mitered corner napkin that's actually square. So for my stitches, when I was doing my little corners on the previous step, I was sewing at a 3, but I'm going to up my stitch length to a 4, mostly because I like the look of it, but yeah, I think that's really the only reason. I like the look of it. And I do think it will help, like when you're sewing over these little bulky corners here, having a longer stitch length seems to be easier to navigate. So I'm just going to put my presser foot to where I'm at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and just start sewing. And I'm not going to worry about back stitching when I start. I'll back stitch at the end. So I've got it all top stitched here. And it looks really nice. I love that it has the nice wide border here. Now I'm just going to, it's laying really nicely right now as it is, but because I'm here and the iron's already here, I might as well. Just going to iron it again. If you want super crispy looking napkins, you could be starching. You could have starched from the beginning and it's gonna make those folds so crispy. And here we go. We have one beautiful mitered corner napkin. And I am pretty proud of myself on the square factor. It's pretty, this might be the best that you see from me. All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that quick video on how to do mitered corners. Don't forget that you can take that technique and apply it to lots of other projects. Anything that you want a nice finished edge on, you can use this technique with. Reusable napkins as a whole are great for scrap busting. They're great beginner projects, and they are great if you're trying to teach somebody how to sew. And just it's just a great tool to have in your sewing toolbox. So I hope that you found this video useful. Be sure to leave me a comment below if you have any other sustainability sewing ideas or patterns that you would like to see me whip up. I do have a couple other ideas waiting in the wings, and I will be rolling them out just, you know, whenever I can. On that note, sustainability and, you know, taking care of the planet, what's happening in Texas, in Portland, in Charlotte is obviously nothing short of a nightmare, especially if you are in the US. You have probably heard, especially about Texas right now. And what I wanted to kind of chat about for a second is mutual aid. And if you've never heard of it, mutual aid is a redistribution of wealth. And so anybody can get involved. And what it is it's a direct person-to-person payment. And instead of people who need help having to rely on the government or having to, you know, cut through red tape to get help, they're getting help from their neighbors and from other humans, other people. We either more than likely have all found ourselves in a position where we needed help, or we will at some point. And so it's just best practice to be a lovely human. And there are lots of mutual aid groups on the ground in Houston or in Texas, all over the state of Texas, you know, helping animals and helping people buy diapers and helping people buy groceries and gas and, you know, getting the power turned back on. And oh gosh, the power bills that are coming in, don't even get me started. But anyways, I just wanted to suggest that if you haven't already, look into donating and do what you can to help out. And if you feel like Texas is getting enough, that's fine, but look in your area too. I guarantee that there is a mutual aid network and everybody can use a hand sometime. On that note, I will do a shameless plug of a group that I just help organize. We don't get paid. It's all volunteer. However, I helped start a group called Makers for Mutual Aid. You can join it on, I'll put the link below in the description box, but essentially it is a bunch of makers and we donate our money and time and like fully finished makes to raffles so that we can create funds, and then we divvy it up to people who fill out and complete this form. If you find yourself in the position that you want to donate money or items, let me know. Or if you find yourself in a position that you could really use some extra cash, let me know. We prioritize BIPOC and LGBTQ plus people, so just throwing that out there. But yes, so all that information will be in the form below. And yeah, anyways, just be kind to one another and let's show a little love and a lot of grace, and you know, let's be the change, as Gandhi once said. On that note, thanks for listening. I hope that you're all having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.